So, my name is Brandy Hitt. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. Growing up, I really wasn't in church. My, parents, didn't take me on a regular basis. We would go on special occasions, maybe like Easter or Mother's Day. I had family who were in the Church of Christ denomination, and I would, go to church with them sometimes when I was a young girl. And then, obviously, as I got older, I, you know, really never thought about church until I was, you know, a teenager and started feeling the effects and heaviness of life. My parents, they owned a business. They built that business in 1986, so I was usually just in that business all the time with them. And they missed a lot of out on a lot of things, like special events in my life. They would just, they were there when they could be, but a lot of times they would just pay someone to, take me to get my hair done for homecoming or pick out my dress or whatnot. So I kind of, felt a little bit deprived as a young girl in that area, just because the business took my parents' time away so much. I had my first son when I was 18 years old. I got pregnant in high school and found out just 6 months before graduation that I was going to be a mom at age 18. My son was actually born the day that my parents' divorce was finalized. The fact that they had such a huge business, lots of money involved, it's a very nasty divorce. But it was finalized on the day that I brought my son home from the hospital. Not even a year later, I guess my son was maybe 8 months old, and I started going out to clubs and parties. My mother was doing her thing, my dad was doing his thing, and I just did not want to be in the middle of it. So I actually lived alone by myself at 18 with my child. When he was about 9 months old, that's when I started going out and partying and drinking. And I found a club that I could go to at the age 18. I just couldn't drink. So I went there all the time. And this is where I ran into my child that's in the clouds, that baby's father. He was a really, really good dancer. And I just wanted attention. I craved attention. I wanted attention. That's really what I wanted. I wanted someone to be all about me and notice me and be into what I wanted to do and spoil me. And this is where I guess my problems began. So I ended up being in a relationship with this guy for, I'm going to say 2 years, but just a few months into the relationship, I started experiencing domestic violence with him, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The mental and the emotional abuse was far worse than the physical abuse. It did get to a point where it was pretty bad. I ended up in the hospital with a stab wound in my head, several black eyes, and not even a year into our relationship, I ended up pregnant. I was going to the doctor with cramps, and I absolutely could not believe what he had to say when he came back in the room by telling me I was pregnant. My world just went into chaos. I was scared, but I mean, I was taking care of a 1-year-old as an 18-year-old. Not a, my dad loved me. He did the best he knew how and could. I just didn't have a lot of support, having a young child. He absolutely wanted me to have this baby. The fact that my family was tied into lots of money, in which will play into the rest of my story. There was a lot of using in that area, with men. He absolutely wanted me to have this child for, I feel like, the wrong purpose. I was being abused, every week, sometimes days in a row. I would just be in the house and really just couldn't get out, just felt trapped. And I will never forget going into the abortion clinic for the first time. I remember calling the lady saying, "This is not me. This is not what I want to do, man." She was very just cold, and like she heard that all day long. I was not even 2 weeks pregnant. And I just said I need to come in immediately. She told me there was an option to do it by pill. And I just remember walking in that clinic. It had just gotten bombed a week or two prior in Birmingham. And, they hadn't even cleaned it up. There was sheetrock and concrete all over the floor. When I walked in, it was just a disaster. It literally looks like someone had just bombed it before I walked in. There was a speaker right there, and I just pressed that speaker, and I just told the lady while I was there, and I remember having to go upstairs, like in an attic part, like in a upstairs part, and walking in, there was women lined against the wall with plastic tubs beside them with their shoes in it. I mean, just all around the wall. And I felt such heaviness. And I need to say this, but I really don't want to. I just feel so horrible that I made my dad be a part of this. But for years, he was really all I had. In something like this, you really need and want your mom. Unfortunately, my mom just, I think she set out on a new life, and that new life just didn't include me. I just know that my dad was just very disappointed in me. He was very disappointed. And he said, there were girls and their stomachs were huge all around me. And I just remember him whispering to me saying, "The next time, I'm going to make you wait until you're that size." And I just remember thinking, "God, I'll never do this again. I'll never do this again." I just felt that I just could not have this child because I felt that my family would have been so incredibly disappointed in me. Not only because my child would have been biracial, and the town that I lived in was just very small, and that I would forever be stuck in that abuse, like in that relationship. I was more afraid, I think, of being stuck in a relationship with someone abusing me, because I pretty much, I gave my dad a lot of trouble. So I pretty much, if I was headstrong on something I wanted to do, I was going to do it. But definitely, I felt like everyone would just cut their ties with me and have nothing to do with me if I decided to have this child. So after my first abortion, basically I went home and I hid it from the guy, and I lost the baby in a bathroom all alone by myself on the floor. I was terrified. It was very traumatic, and it did something to my soul and my spirit. It really did. I kept asking God to forgive me. I was terrified. I knew of God. I just, not like I do now. But it did something to me. It really did. And in turn, that just inside of me, that guilt and that shame never came out. And it's almost just like I had a cut on my finger or my arm. And that guilt and shame is the dirt that gets into that cut, and it just festers up. And it just exploded, really. The only way I really know how to describe it. And the pain of what I'd done then turned me more to turn to alcohol, and prescription medication came into play. And before I knew it, I was getting second abortion, in my third, in my fourth, in my fifth. And the enemy kept telling me, you've already did it once, so why not do it again? God forgave you for that one, so why not do it again? You can't do this, Brandy. And it was almost like I was using it as a form of birth control. Because I had the money. That money was also something there that was just not, money can be used for evil just as well as we can use it for the glory and the kingdom of God. I began to have nightmares specifically about a little boy. Sometimes it was a little boy. And he was falling down a mountain, and he was hanging on to the side of the cliff. And I would reach down to get his hand. And his hand would slip out of mine. And he would fall. And I would wake up. And I just got to a point where I just didn't really even want to know that I was even in existence. I would wake up afraid of things. I didn't even know what I was afraid. Anxiety would try to grip me, and the more people would ask, "What's wrong with you?" would just make it worse, because I can't even explain to you what I'm scared of. This was the life that I lived. And that's when I really started leaning in on prescription medication. And, and the way that happened, I just, I had a wreck and went to a doctor, and he gave me pain medication, but that medication also numbed my emotions. A lot of people say a zombie apocalypse is coming, but I personally think it's already here because of all the people that are walking around in just a haze, just complete haze, souped up on pharmaceutical medications and drugs. Just feel like there are zombies all over right now. And that's literally what I was. I was just in such darkness. And then in 2014, my dad became sick with stomach cancer. Right about that time, I found out there again that I was pregnant. I wanted to let everyone know that in between this last abortion and the first one, now I have 2 living children, a boy and a girl, that are 10 years apart. So my dad became sick in 2014. I was a big daddy's girl. Our relationship had grown. We had gotten closer. And I had 2 children. When my dad became sick, I let him know that I was again pregnant. The Lord had did something on the inside of my daddy and completely transformed who he was and who he used to be. He told me that, he wanted me to do whatever I wanted to do. But I knew that part of him wanted me to do the right thing, So I prayed to God and said, Lord, if you'll save my dad, I'll have this baby. And this is another place where the enemy crept in and, in my thoughts. Trying that God should do something for me. My dad ended up passing away. And so I decided, the enemy constantly, let me tell you something, by this time I was so souped up on drugs. Just to make an example, just quickly, during the day while I was awake, I would take 5 and 6 Ambien a day. So I'd walk around with my brain asleep, literally making choices. But when my dad passed away, I was so angry that God took my daddy. And so I decided to terminate this pregnancy. And this would be my last abortion and my most horrific abortion. Very horrific. I was showing by this time. I was far along. I didn't want any education on what they were doing. I didn't want any information. I didn't want to look at the ultrasound. I was so cold, numb, and angry. I was full of rage. It took them over an hour. Jesus, forgive me. To pull each and every part of that baby out. It was horrific. And it was a girl. I know this last baby was a girl. Because I could hear them say, I got the rest of her crushed up. Mind you, I'd never had a child vaginally. They were all C-sections. So I had to push parts of my daughter out of me. There was blood everywhere. I lost lots and lots of blood. When I was able to sit up, they were holding my mouth closed because I was screaming so loud. A nurse stuck 2 shots in my hip that I could feel go straight to my heart. They were very cold. They just wanted me to shut up. The lady doctor, she was covered from blood from her neck to her shoes. There was blood on the floor. It was very, very horrific. And I just thought my drug addiction had gotten bad. This is where I entered into the realm of hell on earth and started being demonically tortured. And I can just remember demons manifesting over my bed, more than one. I would wake up with bruises, scratches, and marks all over my feet and arms. Sometimes my inner thigh. Very strange. I woke up with 3 black marks. I would be tortured in my sleep. I would wake up feeling like someone strangling me. I would feel like there was a presence standing behind me 24/7 laughing at me because I was such a prideful person that it almost felt like a form of witchcraft was on me. That it almost like specifically someone could, I don't know, but bathroom lights would flicker, doors would slam. Without a visually seen a demon in a black cloak sitting in my bed. And he was actually rubbing, he was actually the guy that I was with during this time. He was actually rubbing his belly and all the way down his genitalia. Yes. And he smiled at me and showed me his teeth and his fangs. And I remember jumping at him, and screaming, in the name of Jesus, leave. I don't know why. And then the guy that I was seeing jumped up and almost hit me for waking him up. And told him, I said, a demon is, I seen it. Of course, he verbally, before my last abortion. This happened right before. When I got up out of the bed, walking back into the living room, and I seen that same demon over my daughter's baby bed. No, my daughter wasn't in that baby bed. Okay. So that you need to use that part. So right there, prophetically, God, you knew it didn't click then. I wasn't going to have had an abortion months later. Okay, so the way that the Lord got me out of this. Losing my dad, I basically, the way I found freedom in Jesus, I came into a very large inheritance. I was completely lost, broken, and I functioned on narcotics, just souped up on narcotics every day. Basically what happened, I was scammed by, signing some paperwork. The enemy brought lots of people around in my life, and that he worked through other individuals. But I signed that paperwork and had realized that I'd signed a quick claims deed to my entire inheritance, which left me homeless within 9 months. And I had to leave my children in the care of someone else. So I'd lost everything. Carless, clothless, homeless, and childless. I even lost the children that I had. And ended up in a hospital and found out I was pregnant again with my last child. And I seen the eyes of Jesus on my OBGYN. He looked directly into me and it pierced. It pierced me right through my spirit and soul. And I just remember saying, God, if you stay away out of this mess that I've made of my life, I've had 6 abortions. I've lost everything. Everything was free and clear in my name. Everything was a house. Everything was gone. Like that. With one signature. If you see a way out, I'll take it. And I did. And I held on to that light inside of me for dear life. And the blessings and the favor that God has put on my life is absolutely supernatural and incredible. I can tell you for days and days the things that Jesus has done. And I just stay on my knees and cry out to him, God, give me more. Take me deeper. Take me deeper. When I see a wound that starts flaring up about my past or my, abortion or, signing everything away, I find myself on my knees crying out to the one and only person and only thing on this earth that will ever take care of that wound. No drugs, no amount of drugs, no amount of medication, no amount of beer, no amount of sex is going to make you feel better. I absolutely forgive every person that has stole from me, that has lied to me, that has humiliated me. I am here today to say I love them, I forgive them, and the only way that I'm able to wake up every morning and live with all the decisions that I've made in my life is knowing that that the Spirit of God is in me, and he is always with me, and he will guide me through every decision I make. I don't make a decision. Every choice, God, do you even want me to wear this? God, show me what do I need to do for finances? God supernaturally provided a car, a home, and he is not done. He is not done. He is going to restore everything the enemy took from me times 7, and he will for you too. So my advice to any girl that may be finding themselves in this situation, I want you to know that before you were even in your mother's womb, God wrote an entire book about you. In that book, he never wrote for you to walk around with guilt and shame and all the things. He has wrote out a good life for you no matter what is going on. Every single birth of a child, it is designed. It doesn't matter the situation. Just because my parents' relationship was horrible doesn't mean that God didn't see an opportunity to put a warrior of God inside of my mom. Birth. And I'm telling you, God has taken an opportunity for that child that is inside of you. He doesn't go by earthly circumstances, whether it's rape, whether it's abuse, whether it's love. He sees that opportunity on earth to take a piece of light and place it into a mother so that a prophet can be born, a pastor, a preacher. Listen, he will work every detail out for you. Every single detail. I promise you, the enemy wants to take out any child of God, to hurt God, and to hurt this nation. That child could be the next world changer. Your child could speak things into the earth and change people's lives and destinies, souls. You had this child inside of you because you are supposed to birth this child. Just like Mary. She gave birth to the sacrifice for human, so that all humans could be free and never have to die. Save the whole human race. You just think if a Mary would have gotten an abortion, Do you think people believed her? I mean, I truly know where you're at, but truly understand what I'm saying to you. That God is going to pour out blessings on you like you've never seen. He will just trust that this baby that's in your belly is on a mission. And it is important to the kingdom of God in this world.